Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries tonight. As previewed, it's going to be Ireland, Ireland, Ireland. I guess because I am the son of a lady who was born in a tiny Irish village outside of Dublin, but it might as well have been in the middle of nowhere. So I've been to Ireland many, many times, and I'm just going to like swoop through all of them, believe it or not, as swiftly as I can instead of just focusing on one, episode. I've been going to Ireland since I was a baby, of course, because my mother had to make her appearance in Ireland with her son, because she was all about appearances and entrances and all of that kind of thing. So I was dragged over there a couple times. My dad came with us once. He was a good looking, kind of very chic hippie. Of course, he was my mother's husband. And all of my cousins to this day fell in love with him. I mean, every time I'd go back, how's your dad? How's your dad? Your dad did this, your dad did that. Okay, whatever. Cool. So there's these old trips that, and like early, right? 6 and baby and like, 8 and whatever. So then my next sort of return, I should say, really to my homeland, has to do with a story that I can't really get into in very much detail. There's lots of other things to tell, but this part I can't because it's an entire chapter of my book. The whole book is devoted to that experience. So I can do just kind of like a skim it. The love of my life, male, a love of my life. The first one was a boy named John Brockelman in high school. I gotta leave it at that, okay? So it was a very, very, very life-changing, meaningful experience that was sort of altered the trajectory of my life. And we were both 15. Well, he was 16, and I was 15, and it's an unbelievable chapter. So we're going to have to like gloss over that visit because it is so jam-packed. But it's in my book. There are things in that are not in that chapter. Maybe I can, once the book is out, I can elaborate on that chapter. Whatever. Okay, so then, of course, I'm back again myself. I'm traveling. That's always the pit stop. Ireland, of course, Dublin. And party, party, party. There's lots of pubs, and it's nothing for an Irishman to go through 5 or 6 pints a day and still be able to function quite adequately. Not me. I may be Irish, but I'm not that Irish. Anyway, so then there were sojourns over there on my own with my cousins. Now, real quick, if you want to talk clan, Irish clan, then here's the way mine is structured. It's the Brady Cruise clan. The Bradys would be the male on my mother's side of the family, father, and the Cruises would be on my mother's side of the family. So there's the Cruises on her mother's side and the Bradys on his. That would be the beginning, let's say, of the clan. Now, from that, some subsets of families came within the clan, were folded within the clan. And that are the McMahons, the O'Briens, and then there's Liz. So the McMahons were an offshoot with their son and daughter who had sons and daughters. There was the O'Briens, of course, who moved to the United States. A big, long story involving the Grande Dame, my mother. And they're the O'Brien family. And then there's Liz. Liz is a clan unto herself, not a sub anything. So basically we have the Cruz Brady clan, and then, sub-clans, the McMahons, and then, of course, the O'Briens, and then there's Liz. Like I said, Liz defies clan. Anyway, that's a huge part of my book. Anyway, that's sort of the backdrop of my family, and my mom, like, dragging half of them over to the United States, of course. Well, no, my aunt went first, and then my mother just came and took over the country. She arrived in Cleveland, my poor aunt and her family, and you just had to have known my mom. All of a sudden, she drags them all to Los Angeles. The sister is now working for her for $5 a day. The cousins are scattered everywhere, but they all turned into wonderful people. I'd love to name all of them, but one has passed and there's three left, and they're full Irish because their dad and my aunt moved here, and then my mom sort of avalanched into Cleveland and then avalanched into Beverly Hills. Whoop-de-doo. Anyway, so the next trip, I would say, a remarkable trip, was with my husband and my son. This was a very unusual trip, and I will try to kind of truncate it for y'all and see kind of how much I can get in there. So we were set to travel to Dublin for Christmas, and that would have been my husband, my son at the time, who was 4, and my mother, of course. Nothing happens without her hitting the scene. And we were there for Christmas, right? So we were going to be there, obviously, with our 4-year-old son, which is lots of fun to travel transcontinental with a 4-year-old. Oh my God. You just want them to be a piece of luggage. Anyway, so we get there. So everything is, we're going to meet my hip, lovely cousin Mihal that I go way back when he traveled from Dublin and lived in Hollywood. And whoa, that was a very long story. But he's, of course, back in Dublin. My husband, my son, myself, my mother, and those McMahons and O'Brien people, the cousins, the offshoots, their kids and them. So we're supposed to go to dinner. The first gathering, I got tea, whatever the hell. Well, it wasn't tea, that's a 4, but whatever. Well, 3 in Ireland, but whatever. So whatever it was, dinner thing, we're gathered, and my husband smokes, and I smoke, and my youngest little cousin smokes, and then I think there was another cousin. And we were in the backyard. Everyone knew. I mean, obviously, we have a son. We're a couple for, by then, 10 years by the time we got Logan. And my Einstein of a cousin mentioned something about what my aunt said. Now, the 3 sisters, remember the O'Briens that went to USA, the McMahons that stayed, and then the Liz becoming Liz. Well, this was the one that stayed's family. Very conservative, honest to God, you guys. Her ex-husband would not let her wear slacks. Until he died, she couldn't wear a skirt. Good Christ in heaven. Anyway, so we're in the back, and we're smoking. And my giggly Einstein of a cousin says, oh, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing now. Mari, my aunt, the one who was not allowed to wear slacks, she goes, oh yes, because she was so, didn't know, uncomfortable or was scared or whatever, that there might be some PDA, public displays of affection, of course, that we would be making out on her frigging cow, her blah. I mean, please, honey. So she said that, which is so insulting that woman, my aunt, would be concerned about a PDA when she's got a couple who's her nephew with their son. My husband, being who he is, took great offense to that. And when my husband takes great offense, it goes very deep, and it is immediately apparent. I can mask it. He can't. Well, he can within reason. So on that little segment of the trip, and then there's other coolie-ass trips, parts of it, it was over. The whole trip was over for him in his brain. He couldn't warm up to my family. Horrified by her. She had Christmas dinner once, just myself, my son, Michael, and some old lady and my Aunt Mari, and they were going to say grace. Oh God, you guys, with my husband there, with his son in his lap, and they want to do a Catholic grace, didn't end well. Didn't end well. So anyway, that sort of infiltrated the mindset of that whole trip in that whole part of the McManny part, right? The dinner and the seeing of the nephews and, going to some nearby town. Michael did have an amazing experience with a cousin on the cruise side. That would be my mom's mom, who are lovely people. And he bonded with my cousin Pat in such a way that you cannot imagine. They saw this ancient thing. I don't know what it was. You would know. It's that bulgy, long, grassy thing from like 10,000 years ago that is long since closed. Well, they were in there, like looking at the hieroglyphs from like 900 AD. Amazing. So that was the highlight of the trip for him. Thank God he had that. It was amazing. Never forget that. So the fun part of that trip was that I can't really say how we got the things that we needed to use for what we were given, because it would be too dicey with, let's just say, contraband. So we were able to get a hold of some killer hash, you guys. And that was through a relative that I'm not going to name, but even my Aunt Mari knew who. I mean, he practically gave us the hash right in front of her. She's such a knucklehead. Poor, I mean, listen, you don't speak ill of the dead. There was nothing malicious ever. She doesn't have a thread of that in her body. So my cousin Mihal knows that we have nothing. I mean, what would we have come with except some usables with no thing to use? So anyway, he forks over this piece of hash that is like a candy bar. I mean, it was like bubble yum or something, bubblicious. Anyway, it was bubblicious because these little thingies that I had were perfect for little hashy pipies. They were key rings that I got in North Hollywood. We won't say how they made it there, of course. This is all a fantasy. And they had little hash pipe thingies hanging off of the end of the keychain. And I remember seeing them, and then the trip comes along, and I'm like, oh, F, there's those little hash pipe keychains. They would be very convenient and easy to use, wouldn't they? And gosh, they look a lot like earrings. Anyway, cut to Ireland. And so we are so jazzed on this new hash that Mike and I are actually in one of the most famous malls in Ireland, in Dublin, like Dublin proper, totally smoking out on hash in these fancy ass bathrooms that are sealed floor to ceiling. And so my mom, of course, is in charge of the baby, in charge of money and everything. And we're just like fully hashing out in these fancy bathrooms, and let her do the babysitting. F it. It was a really cool mall at that point. I don't remember. I think we did a lot of shopping, actually. I remember going home with lots of bags. So anyway, we had those kind of hashy moments through that trip in Dublin. There were clubs that we went to, like an amazing one, I think St. George or George's or George the Fifth's or something. Pink, but old, hot ass disco. I don't know how far we want to get into this, but I guess I'll leave you with a racy highlight. So one evening after pubbing, my husband and I decided to go to a gentleman's club, which is a colloquialism that only some of us don't know. And it's kind of a gentleman's club gym. They're in every major city usually. And this one was really weird because I've been to the rodeo a couple times with them things. But it was all basically like a spiral. I mean, not a complete spiral, but that's how the stairs went. And it was narrow and it was tall with this little like cafe weird thingy at the bottom that was deserted. And okay, so there's rooms, of course, and loungy areas like steam rooms and saunas and all that, gentlemen's clubby stuff. Well, uh, hmm, the thing that sticks out to me the most is that, aside from the fact that it's really the most bizarre that kind of gentleman's clubby I've seen, the way it spirals up and everything fans out, and it's really modern, which you're not kind of used to with those types of places. But here's the deal, there was this big jacuzzi that, of course, everyone was crammed into. I mean, within reason. The rule of the gentleman's club was that a loud ass horn goes off every 15 minutes, and everyone, like, under order, has to get out of the jacuzzi. And then you have to wait until the horn goes on again. So either the people stay and go back into the jacuzzi, or they get bored, I guess, or whatever, and leave, and then other people take their place, and then you get the jacuzzi for another 15 minutes, and there goes the horn. So number one, the horn. Okay, the horn, guys. I mean, you could hear it on that floor. And then the idea of these naked men jumping out, in and out, you guys, and in and out of this giant jacuzzi with this horn going off every 15 minutes. I will leave you with that. Listen, I can talk more about Ireland, but those are the highlights, and we're probably way over. So I hope you have found it entertaining, at least, if nothing else. I don't think profound or meaningful. It was family related, but not necessarily G-rated. Okay, you guys, thanks for putting up with me and maybe enjoying my company and all that good stuff. You know what you mean to me. So I'll see you tomorrow. It's a 365 here. You know how that goes. And I look forward to it. It's the highlight of my day. Okay? I'll see you then. Bye.